The first thing they don't know is that I'm married for 6 years. My wife will discover sometimes she comes back from work. I'll cook because I know that she's coming back and she might not have she's tired and everything.
I'm trying to understand the concept of how you created the character Aunty Felicia.
I was trying to give the character 3-dimensionality. There was a purpose, a hindrance to that purpose, and there is a weakness. Aunty Felicia is greatly fashioned after my mother.
What was it most special about your mom that you wanted to reincarnate through the character Aunty Felicia?
She was funny, she was controversial, she was cocky, she was kind.
Would you ever outgrow the character Aunty Felicia?
This is a very good question. I've written Aunty Felicia the movie.
Talk to me about that aspect of storytelling.
That's the foundation of skip making. Trust me, if you interact with Carol, Peace, Richard, it's not just the education that I'm talking about, it's the level of intelligence that they have.
Some of the challenges you've encountered since starting to play Aunty Felicia.
If you're going to ask that question, you ask that question directly. Truth be told, when I finish Aunty Felicia, I don't want anybody telling me about it. Sometimes I just want to be me. There are environments where I feel like I should have a bit more freedom to be me.
What's up, my smart friend? Before you jump straight into this episode, there are 3 boxes I'd love you to check while you watch. First things first, please make sure to hit the subscribe or the follow button down below, because the more we grow, the bigger guests we can approach on this platform and the more value we can bring to you here on the podcast. Second, a lot of friends always reach out to me and say something like, "Hey Arrey, I really did enjoy this particular segment of this episode." What I want you to do, if you get to a point like that, pick up your phone and send this to a friend and say, "Hey, check this out, between 10 to 15 minutes, there's something very important I'd love you to see." Number 3, please make sure to check out the links in the description for very helpful resources. You're going to find the link to join the Smart Club, which is my private mentorship club for friends who want to learn and master a high-income digital marketing skill. Whether your goal is to build your personal brand, become a freelancer, or get a job in digital marketing, the Smart Club is going to be the right place for you. Also, you're going to find the link to join our 21,000 Smart Friends on email, where you're going to receive an email from me once every week. Plus, down below, you're also going to see links to connect with the guests. So please make sure you tick those 3 boxes and enjoy the rest of this episode.
Before we kick in, I want to tell you one of my favorite things about you is the fact that you're not just doing comedy. When you look at your comedy and look at others, you understand that there's an intellectual aspect to it. You know, there's just comedy, and then there is when you see an intellectual aspect to comedy. And I think that that's one of the things I admire most about you, and it shows. It comes off in your work that you are well studied. You understand the concept. And so for me, when I said I wanted to speak to you, the goal was trying to understand the machine behind what is out there, not necessarily what's out there, but just the machine. I think that you do a lot of deep thought, and that's what I think. Would you say that's your personality, though?
Yes, generally I'm an overthinker. I think so. In some way, yes. I think I'm an overthinker because I'm very particular about details. I'm also a perfectionist in many ways, I think, which is not necessarily a good thing, because perfection can sometimes be overrated, and it can slow down process. But then what happens is that you are able to really look at the picture, the fuller picture before doing anything. You are able to introspect. I think that I had left little hints at the fact that I was funny, because that was to those who do not know me on Tricky Table, but for those who have been my friends for the longest time, they've always assumed that I would do comedy, but as a stand-up comedian, not as Aunty Felicia myself, but as a stand-up comedian, because I like to tease. I like teasing people. I'm very sarcastic. So, and I've been greatly inspired by the greats. So it's Trevor Noah, it's John Oliver, it's Dave Chappelle. Unfortunately, I'm calling the names of mostly Western comedians. So the truth is, these are the people I was readily exposed to. And most comedy was so intellectual that it appealed to me, because it communicated a lot of thoughts, deep thought, as you said yourself. But then I remember also watching Sparkle and Zachary while growing up, because that was really my first exposure to Cameroonian comedy. I had been exposed a little bit to Nigerian comedy, but I did not like it at the time. So, but then when I watched Sparkle, what happened was it felt relatable. It wasn't as deeply intellectual as the Trevor Noahs and everything, but there was something I could connect to. With it. It wasn't just the language, it was the reality of the scenery. It was the characters that you found, that you knew these people, and to see how Sparkle did not turn them into caricatures, but brought them to life. It was something that I really liked, and I'd always wanted to do it, but I did not know how. There were a lot of barriers to it. I think that we'll get into that, but it was something I thought long and deep before getting into.
All right. If someone were to ask you, what's the difference between Kwoh Elonge and Aunty Felicia, what would you say to them?
There's an obvious difference that Kwoh Elonge is male, and Aunty Felicia is a character I play. That's the first. The second is Aunty Felicia is very different in terms of personality. So I'm not aggressive in any way, in any form. That's not me hiding myself, it's just true. I'm not. So I'm not confrontational in any way. In fact, truth be told, when I finish Aunty Felicia, I don't want to deal with it. I don't want anybody telling me about it. I don't want it in my home or anything. I don't want anybody narrating the stories of Aunty Felicia to me because it's so exhausting, you know.
I wanted to ask you at some point, because there's this time, so when Will Smith was preparing for, there's a slave movie, I've just forgotten the details, but Will Smith just did a slave movie recently. When I watched one of his videos, it's like when he finished the movie, for him to get back into character took him months. He had to even go get into therapy. And so I wanted to ask you, is there a period where you switch off, and have you had any difficulty switching off from Aunty Felicia to Kwoh Elonge, and how you're dealing with that with the character?
There's been one or two, but not because of the character, really. It's so there sometimes I have to do things with the character. I'll give you an example. I partnered with Canabilities, which is an organization that works on sensitizing on autism, and autism was something very new to me. Here it's not really diagnosed, so we just call it as Zamzam and all that. So they'll give derogatory names really, and it wasn't seen. There wasn't the science and the medicine behind it. And so when I began learning about it, because this organization met me, and these were autistic mothers. When I say autistic mothers who had autistic kids. They met me and they wanted me to do this, and I had to do research because that's not a light topic, and I never wanted to strike the wrong note or be superficial about it. So I wanted to put myself in the place of the mothers who are the primary caregivers of their children, really. And so in doing that, I soaked myself quite deeply into autism and into the thought process and into the difficulties of a parent.
What does what does the process look like of you soaking yourself into?
It was really. So I had to observe. And first, I went to a mother who had two autistic children. And autism is on a spectrum, so some are really, really down the spectrum. And then there are those that it's just the communicative skills that are not there. So, and I had to look at how it changes the daily life, you know. And I remember going to this mother, and her child just broke the flat screen TV she had acquired. It was a very expensive one. Because it was just disturbing him. And I could see also the child would try to arrange things in a particular order. So orderliness was a thing. And communication was a problem. They want their food a certain way. And then I wanted to get into the psyche of the mother, how that daily challenge they had to deal with. And you could feel the desperation, you could feel faith, you could feel frustration and everything, but then you could also feel the tenacity, you know, and the love.
I can't hurt the child.
Yes, and the kind of boundless love that a mother will have for the child in spite of what they're going through. And that also how sometimes in other families, how it also sacrifices love for other children because they're so focused on these ones who had special needs. And the other children felt left out in many ways. So and then trying to see how they also try to balance it in some cases, sometimes futilely. So it wasn't that I was stuck with the Aunty Felicia characters. I was stuck with like, how can I help? Beyond just talking. It was like, what can I do to change the situation? Because it's just something you feel so powerless about when you go through. It's not just putting up sensitization. You actually want to be part of the solution, and you feel like you really cannot. But then I think that I have a strong circle of friends and family who are able to make me see that in just doing this, I'm raising so much awareness, and that's part of being a solution, So, yeah.
I think that says a lot about you, just the ability to go, I'm supposed to work with this organization. I just don't want to take it and just put out a scheme that looks like we're talking about this.
I've never really. I've done courses like albinism, partner with the Canadian Embassy and Born to Dazzle Foundation for 2 straight years to raise awareness on albinism. And truth be told, there were a lot of misconceptions I had about albinos or persons living with albinism. And in my research, in kind of the participant observation where I become part of the albinism family, it taught me a lot. It changed a lot of, like, I had a crayfish, for example, they chop janga. And, I learned there that no, that's not a problem. The problem is the sun. Not that's what gives the skin all the spots, not the marks and everything. So it's not crayfish, it's not palm oil. So in a sense, I was in trying to create awareness, educating myself too. So I'm able to empathize more because I'm able to talk with people, live with people, and understand their challenges and understand how these misconceptions have affected, obviously, their lives, and also see their struggle and see how resilient most of them are, and also see how I could now extend the conversation, not in a way that is patronizing, but in a way that gets people to understand and become, because I don't suffer from my Messiah complex. I don't think I'm the solution to it, but I can contribute my own chipping a little bit to make sure that things get better. So in every campaign that I've done, there are so many of them that are social causes. I'm very passionate about the social causes. This is the process that I go through.
In everything that we've talked about from the beginning right up to now, I think that what I hear you say is that in everything you do, there is a purpose to it and there is a meaning you want to attach to it. So while everyone is trying to do comedy, you're trying to add a purpose to it. And I remember I watched one of your interviews where you said, when people write to you and say, look, I was depressed and I watched your skits and this got me out, and I go, that's something for me to do. Talk to me about how important is that purpose to you in what you do?
Everything we do has to be purpose driven. It has to be intentional. There must be an end goal, basically. What is it that I want to achieve? Of course, there is the financial part, which for most people it seems like that is the focal point. But you can achieve all of that. Like I said, with what you quoted, I said when I started comedy, truly it was for comedy. It was because I felt I was funny. And the purpose was to make people laugh, the purpose was to bring some fresh angle. It was also to appeal to a new demographic of audience whom I think were not catered for, especially those who were very educated and those who were within the ages of 30 and above. Because for the longest time we had comedy that appealed to a younger demography, but it was also very cliche, I think, because it dealt with newbie girls and hustle scammers and that. So what value does that bring to a mother? What value does that bring to an entrepreneur? What value does that bring to a health worker and all that? So not that is it's valuable to a younger demography. So I had to target now an older demography, and especially women, because for the longest time women were actually the butt of jokes, the victims of jokes. They were not the center. They were not the ones making people laugh, And so I wanted to do something. And interestingly, my mom actually is greatly fascinated after my mother, my late mother. She was funny. Yes, 2017. My dad died in 2015. She was funny. She was controversial. She was cocky. She was kind. Just the different shades that human beings have. But I loved the way she talked, and I loved her intonation, and I loved her language. It was very funny. She was the type of person you meet. I particularly loved her cockiness because you meet her, you're like, I love I like your rapper, and then she'll be like, they think they flog me for Bob's Day, person every day for where I'm. So, so she would just say thank you, So I loved it, I loved it because in many ways women are not allowed to be cocky. Are not allowed to, I mean, a guy can say, say those things. I don't know who say like, what? So I love the fact that she said those things, and it was very funny to a lot of people, especially if it was not directed at you, you find it funny. Yeah. So, so there was a lot of purpose in it. It was with the effect it had on people that made the purpose even bigger. Because at the time it was just comedy. But then when people called me and said, we have this hour, 12 to 12, we have to work for 12, 18 hours overseas. And you know how atomized your society is, where people have to work, get back home, and they are by themselves, and they have to deal with themselves, and they have to look for ways to distract and just yes. And so they needed something that was relatable. And when they started watching Aunty Feli, it gave them that kind of peace of mind and relief and laughter and happiness. And so when they got to me, and there was this girl who had lost parents in an accident. She was the one who told me that she was depressed, and that she stumbled on it in a WhatsApp group, and she was just laughing, and then she went and she binge watched it. She was just watching and watching. She would repeat and go and go and go, and she reached out to me and she said she had not laughed for ever, and that it was in watching Aunty Felicia that she began laughing. And this is just one of the stories. I remember the CEO of Stevens Music reached out to me, and his brother was dying, finally died, but he was dying, and he said, I want you to just talk to him because when I think that he watches only Aunty Felicia. That's the only thing that makes him smile. And he's on life support, but that's what makes him smile. And him just hearing my voice was all that he needed to be happy. I think last week, a lady called me from the UK and said they have this friend who is a super fan, but she is on life support, and she's down with cancer and she's fighting for her life. And they know that if she talks to me, it will mean so much to her. And you could see how happy she was. And so to me, it stopped being just comedy, it became evangelism, where I think it's something that brings hope.
I love the word evangelism because I think that it takes away the act of just trying to create skits and puts a purpose to it. And the purpose as well brings about the consciousness to what you do. When you talk about your mom, I see you light up a lot. What was it most special about your mom that you wanted to reincarnate through the character Aunty Felicia?
Okay, so when I lost my mom in 2017, it was a very painful experience, as you would imagine. I mean, I know it's a cliche, but truly my mom was kind of my best friend. We were very close. And so when I lost her, it was a terrible blow. And I think you know this, I'm primarily a writer. So I began writing a memoir of her. One of my closest friends, Howard Maximus, he too is a brilliant writer. And I would tell the stories, some of the stories, and be like, you tell the stories quite well because you're a comedian. So how about you use some of these stories to do comedy? He was saying it, thinking I would do it as stand-up comedy, where it could be like a comedy show, which would be like experiences with my mom. And but then when I sat, I was like, it makes more sense when I do it exactly.
Yeah.
Felicia, the stories of Aunty Felicia are not necessarily my mother's stories, but the mannerisms, the little nuances and everything, the facial expressions, the body movement, these are my moms, because I mean that's the best study I could have, you know. I know my mom better. So yeah, so those ones are my moms, and it was very it's been very healing for me. It's been therapeutic basically, because to see how people love the character, how they've embraced the character, it feels like I've been able to bring back my mom to life.
Before you continue to watch the rest of this episode, here's what I want you to say.
If I am to rate Smart Club, I'm going to rate it a 9.5 on 10. I'm only taking that 0.5 because perfection leaves no room for development.
He's known for his expertise and innovative problem-solving skills.
Arrey is so practical at what he does.
Hello, this is Flora from the Smart Club.
I joined the Smart Club because I wanted to acquire more skills.
I wanted to acquire more knowledge and skills.
The Smart Club gives you an opportunity to have a one-on-one talk with ARREYB.
It is very innovative.
I have an agile way of thinking now.
We learned a lot, becoming T-shaped, content creation.
These are friends who joined the Smart Club and have been building the skills with us for the last couple of years. Maybe you're asking yourself right now, Arrey, what's Smart Club all about? The Smart Club is my private mentorship club that I built for friends who want to master a high-income digital marketing skill. Whether your goal is to build your personal brand, become a freelancer, or you want to get a job in digital marketing, the Smart Club is the right place for you. Registration has officially opened for the next batch of students. If this sounds like something that you'll be interested in, please don't hesitate to check out the link in the description and join us and build your digital marketing skill.
It's been truly, brother, a very healing experience for me. I know there were a lot of people when I started, because these things you start and you really cannot explain yourself. You just want to put out comedy. And a lot of people were like, oh, you're doing cross-dressing comedy. And I was like, no. In fact, it should be very ridiculous for anybody to think that Kwoh Elonge will want to cross-dress, because I actually love looking like a man. I think that I am very attractive. I think
It's fine.
So it's a no-brainer. It doesn't filter into my life. There is no day somebody sees me out of Aunty Felicia character and thinks that this is a cross-dresser or one big cross-dresser in some sense. No. But then I could not explain that before. Sometimes when I ask myself, I say, but who else will have the authority to impersonate my mother, if not me? Why can't I do it if it's my mom I'm impersonating? Like, why can I not do it? It's true there is exaggeration in age and all, of course, of the comedic value, but the underlying factor is I wanted to do something that brings back my mother to life. Who wants to tell me no?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's that, and it's been very healing.
I've never tried to create a character. It's not my field. I know nothing about it. So talk to me like I was a 5-year-old, and I'm trying to understand the concept of how you created the character Aunty Felicia. I'm trying to guess. I would say you took out a pen and paper and said Aunty Felicia has to be this, and you're writing the score with it. But I'm trying to translate that from paper to action. What does that process look like?
So in creating the character, I think I put up my writer's hat a little bit, because I was trying to give the character three-dimensionality, which basically is that you want to form a round character, a character that has flaws, that has strengths, and and all of that. You don't want a character who is larger than life, who is without flaw, because people don't relate to a character who is not flawed. So if you create a good character, nobody relates, because there was no human being who doesn't, have their flaws. So when I was creating Aunty Felicia, I wanted a character who is a typical mother. A typical mother in that, I know there was a skit I did in which Aunty Felicia has left, she kept 10,000 francs, and she probably forgot where she kept it, and she's with her son in the house, and she's like, I cannot see my 10,000. Did you not see me with 10,000 francs? And the son said, yes, I saw you holding 10,000. And then she turns to us and say, I know, go be with two for house money, go John loss. But that's how mothers act like that, and they are wrong, because she finally sees the thing and she doesn't apologize. She just calls me and say, I don't cook you some better this thing, and can't chop, and she doesn't have to say sorry, I don't.
And that's our way of expressing
but then that's typical, and I think that's what I was going for. I was going for something that was very relatable. And also in terms of the storytelling, I never wanted stories that were like, it's not science fiction. It's day to day. It's the fact that a neighbor wants to dig and then goes mistakenly bursts your water pipe that passes in front of their house, and it's a whole big, big issue. It's people hosting meetings and they say, okay, you two will do fried rice, and somebody goes and does the chicken, sends the stock, say you go cook the rice, I don't send you the stock, me I go do the chicken. It's like, you will for peace, send me stock, me I don't know if you do the like, is this the simplest things, the little conflicts that we have and how we resolve them? It's not, because that daily life is very simple, the conflict is very simple. It's not always very complex, it's misunderstanding oftentimes. It's never deep. It might take on a life of its own because there is no communication or miscommunication, but generally problems are always very simple, start very simple. When you look at any land dispute, it's my boundary this. No, in the boundary you get to be now. So tell them, send me this thing. It starts as a kind of misunderstanding before it becomes full. It takes on its life on its own and it becomes complete mayhem. So this is how I wanted the stories to be, so that people can see themselves, see the people they know in these stories and make it more relatable. So it's basically just giving the character three-dimensionality, giving the stories that kind of
strength, weakness, strength, weakness. What was the tag?
An environment.
Oh, environment. Okay.
Yeah.
Environment. Okay, that's the context.
Yes, the context. Yes.
Right. So what would you say at this point? Let's say that I was trying to create a character. What would you say are the three things I should find, or the three things I should note down for me to be like, yeah, I'm creating a good character that an audience is going to relate with?
First of all, the character should have a purpose. Say you look at, let me give you an example of a character, Superman.
Yeah.
Right? His purpose, he wants to save the world because he's fighting the forces of evil. So he has a clear purpose. That's what drives him. That's, you create a character. So he has the superpowers and everything to heal the world, to save the world, to try to save the world, and that's his purpose. There is an obstacle. There must be an obstacle. There must be an obstacle to that purpose. What is the obstacle? For Superman, it is there is somebody that can stop it, that tries to stop him and all of that. But Superman is kryptonite. You cannot stop him like that. So what is it that weakens his power? He needs a weakness. And in this case, there is a lady, right? There is a lady who becomes his weakness. If you look at, you see that there is a purpose, there is a hindrance to that purpose, and there is a weakness. That is what makes it relatable, because that's how life works. These are the things that you face every time. You're doing a vlog. What is it that is standing against your vlog? It might be internet. And how do you circumvent it? Like, these are all the things that you have. Because if you don't have obstacles, then it's not a human story. It's not relatable. And obstacles are not always human. They can be situations, So these are the things. So these are the things you should look in a nutshell when creating a character. It's creating a character, whether you're writing for movies, you're writing for books. These are the things that should drive your character. There is a purpose. What is it that this person wants to achieve? What is it gunning for? What is she gunning for? Second, what are the obstacles that they face in doing the possible obstacles? And then the third, what are their weaknesses?
Right.
Without which superheroes will remain superheroes and just come to pull people from here. But something must be their weakness. Whether if you look at Incredible Hulk, there is something that can his anger is probably his weakness.
True.
It's also, so you should have something like that.
When it comes to a creative process for you, I'm wondering what that looks like when you have to, because sometimes, and I would speak as a creative person, I run a marketing agency. So apart from me trying to do marketing, I'm in the process of sharing my journey, which is actually how I even started sharing like the emails and everything. Because for me, I look at it like that's me trying to pass on the baton and in a way share my experiences. But at some point, every creator at a different point, you experience like a burnout of ideas where before you realize it's like your skits are going similar direction. How does that, do you ever find something like that happening to you? And if you do, or if you don't, what does that creative process look like for you when we're trying to create content?
My creative process generally is, it's mostly studies. I should say that I think that I do a lot of studies, and in studies now it's observation first. Because I'm dealing with human character, so I observe people a lot and situations a lot, and our interactions with ourselves and with context and with situations that we find ourselves. I observe that. I mean, I think it should be obvious that I read a lot. That opens me to different vistas, but and different worlds, and opens me up to different reactions. I'm generally a very friendly person. They say that creatives are generally reckless, but I'm not. I'm very extroverted, like really, sometimes too much even. So, but then I observe a lot. There's this line, say, I've been alone though surrounded by friends. I'm the kind of person who can be in the midst of 100 people having a discussion, and I'm not there. I'm looking at something else. I'm observing something else from the discussion and all of that. So observation is my primary way of studying, and then reading. I like difference a lot. I like I like to experience difference, because difference brings variety. I respect difference. So my creative process basically is looking for new ways of understanding situations and people, how they will act in different situations. When you create a character like Aunty Felicia and you're giving her weaknesses and strength, her purpose, it's easy to put her within different contexts and environment, and you have a consistent behavior. You know, if Aunty Felicia goes and she's in a choir, she thinks that she should be the one who should lead that choir. She probably thinks she has a better voice than everybody there.
Yeah.
If you put her with friends to cook, you would imagine that she thinks she should be the one to guide people on the menu, what you go into the dish, and that. You know that, like, it's about how she expresses that, but you know, because you've built the character, and you know that these are her weaknesses, are her strengths. She thinks that she's better than everybody, even when she's not. You know, the beauty about Aunty Felicia, I say it all the time, is people don't realize that they only like Aunty Felicia because it's not happening to them.
Right. Yeah. They always say the joke
is happening to someone else. Yeah, because happening to you, it's not funny. So it's that. The creative process is just, first of all, once you have a strong character, it's easy to place the character within context, because there's a consistency of their behavior. You know, it might be the difference is in the way it manifests, but there is consistency. You know, Aunty Felicia has a big weakness. She doesn't like short people. That's something everybody can tell you, that Aunty Felicia doesn't like short people. Personally, I don't have a problem, but Aunty Felicia doesn't like short people, and she thinks that anybody who is short is a problem, and they need to work on their height in some way. But that's the character. That's a flawed character, and this is what you see in society. There are people who don't like short people. There are people who don't like people they don't like particular things about people, and it's just a human thing, you know. When you're creating a character, you're not trying to be politically correct. You are not trying to. If you're supposed to depict the truth of the human situation, you cannot be politically correct. You know, if you have a character who is insulting, the person is insulted. Like that. Well, let me give you another character. Richard is a thief. They are thieves. They are dishonest people around us. He's just chronicling the life. So you know that if Richard is passing by your house and sees a fat, like chicken, immediately this is his reaction. If he sees banana, if he sees this, he wants to steal, he wants to scam, he wants to do this, he wants to cheat. That is a beautifully created character. The character is flawed, but also very human in the way it is done. You know, that's one of the best characters I like. If you take a character like Kwoh is an angry woman, but a woman who thinks that marriage is a purpose, that she marriage gives her meaning. She's the only married woman in a world where everybody is married. But she thinks that her marriage is different, you know. And you see that there's a bag of contradiction, because then you look at the husband. It's not something somebody is supposed to be proud of. Like, but then it's the pride she has in that thing. And we know what marriage means to a lot of people in our society. You know, it's a badge of honor that some people wear. It's something that you should respect instantly. And so it's the beauty in which these characters have been created. The characters that have longevity is because they've been built and given three-dimensionality. They've been given purpose, they've been given a challenge, they've been given flaws.
Yeah.
That's why we can gravitate towards those characters, because they're like, the Cameroon I knew, so the Aunty Felicia I knew, this Richard. You know, Richard is a thief, but he's human. You understand the need. There is no justification around his theft, but he's just a thief. You know that. Yeah. And there is consequence for it.
Yeah. You know, there's something you talk like I start to remember something that I read a while ago. And someone was writing, I can't remember the person who wrote it, but he wrote a quote and said, "The moment I know my enemies well enough to hurt them, I start to love them." And I was like, that's the power of a weakness, because you kind of feel like, oh, this person, I can't. And again, this is something that could be applied even to relationships. People born over weakness, people born over vulnerability. They're born over, oh, this is what's happening to you. Oh, I have a similar issue.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that is it. It's just how relatable life is. People can relate, like, to these things.
I wanted to ask you about something which you do very well, storytelling.
Yes.
And I think that in your comedy, I think incredible. Every single time, even if I click on a video of yours and I'm intending, okay, I have just 2 minutes to watch, I end up watching to the end. And it's that blend it a lot with. So there's a storytelling aspect of it, but it's not just the storytelling. The story has to be told in a way that creates some curiosity, that every second I find myself wanting to watch to know what's going to happen here. Talk to me about that aspect of storytelling and you creating that curiosity the way you do.
So this is it. Storytelling is very important. I mean, that's the foundation of skit making. You want to tell a story. And a key element of storytelling is conflict and suspense. If you do not have conflict, then there is no story. It's just a narrative, you know. And you need suspense to hold attention.
Before you continue to watch the rest of this episode, I've got some great news. Whether your goal is to build your personal brand, to become a freelancer, or to get a job in digital marketing, we've helped hundreds of people, and your time to join the Smart Club is right now. Down below, we're going to put the link regardless of where you are, your stage, whether you're tech or not. The Smart Club is a place for you. So the next batch of the Smart Club is here, and we're officially accepting club members. If this sounds like something that will be interesting to you, please make sure to check the link down in the description below so that you can join the next batch of students. So the best part of all this, whether you're watching this and you go, Arrey, but the Smart Club might not necessarily be for me. I think you have family members, friends, and relatives who you want to upskill themselves. This is going to be the right place for them to upskill. So check out the Smart Club. Make sure to recommend the Smart Club to friends, family members, or those people who might find this very helpful.
I'll give you an example of a story. So Aunty Felicia goes to buy from a shop, and she has a bucket with a product there that she cherishes. And she reaches there, and she's nice with the seller or whatever, and she drops her bucket there. She buys what she buys and then leaves and forgets her bucket. There are people sitting in front of that shop drinking or discussing. And then she goes, she realizes that she's forgotten the bucket. She comes back to get it. She doesn't see the bucket. She asks the salesperson about the bucket. The salesperson says, which bucket? And Aunty Felicia she doesn't, why are you asking me this question in her head? So she opens her bag. People don't know why she's opening her bag. She just stands and goes in front, opens her bag, and they see her, she takes off a broom, a big broom, like sweeping broom. She starts sweeping the store and sweeps underneath the legs of the people who are sitting. She gathers it in a plastic wrapper, holds it and says, I'm going to Oko. It's everybody gets some. Now, you've been there. You're like, what will be her reaction to not seeing her bucket? Like this is a story that has been told to you, but there is suspense, there is conflict. Without conflict and suspense, there is nothing. And then you see how it's resolved, because at the end of the day, it must be resolved at the end. It doesn't mean that it must be resolved in a friendly way, but there is some end to it. But if you don't have conflict, you don't have suspense, you have nothing that you're working on. So in storytelling, I always want to look at what is a conflict? What is a conflict? What is it that it's causing this disagreement? What is it that the character is trying to solve? What are they trying to resolve? What is standing in their way? And how do I build it, till I get to the point where it's getting to be resolved? How do I build that story? So storytelling is a very important part. But those are two elements I would tell anybody. Make sure there is conflict and make sure there is suspense.
Right. I watched one of your interviews that reminded me about Will Smith. If you study Will Smith's journey back then when he was a rapper, one of the things he did in Philadelphia, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, is he said when he started rap, he decided and said to himself, I'm not going to swear, I'm not going to use the F word in my rap, because I'm going to make a change. And I'm going to try and be that gangster, like we'll rap gangster, but you're not going to get those words from my comedy. Yeah. And I think he's always credited for that. And one of the earliest people to ever win a Grammy for hip hop and the rest. Yeah. If I contextualize that, because I thought about that in one of your interviews, and you said, and even until you said it, I didn't realize it until Felicia does not swear, F words and how important is that to your creative process, but most importantly to what you're trying to portray with Aunty Felicia and in regards to the audience? I hope that makes
yes, I get it. So the thing first is that Aunty Felicia is supposed to be a mother, and it's fashioned after a plurality of mothers that have come to, women that have come to know. And one of the things I know about our mothers is they can shout, they can scream, but they don't swear, and they are not vulgar, and they are not sexualized too. So I remember sometimes when I was watching TV and a kissing scene comes up, I'm always like, off that TV. She would let me say, you should not watch it, like, go off the entire TV.
I would just leave my father. I would just tell my father,
so culturally, our mothers are not vulgar. They don't curse like that. And I think that's a strength that our parents have. I think it's a strong moral position that they hold. And as a person, I don't curse. I don't like shock value. I don't think that you need to swear to bring out the comedic thing. But because I don't swear as a person, I just decided to integrate it into it. But I think it fits squarely into the kind of character that I'm playing, which is mothers. And I don't know a mother who uses the F word. Trust me, I don't know a mother in Cameroon who curses in talking. I don't know a mother who does that. So I just fashioned it after what I think is believable.
So I'm trying to find out, how has portraying Aunty Felicia, how has that changed your perspective about the female nature?
Aunty Felicia does not represent womanhood or womandom or femaledom. Aunty Felicia is one female character. She's not a stereotype of women. She doesn't represent every woman. She's just a woman. She might have little bits and pieces of manifestations of women, but you can't use her to characterize women. And I think that it will be a dishonest thing for me to claim to use one character to summarize women. I'm just depicting a character, and the character is complex and in many ways. So, but in doing Aunty Felicia, I'm able to understand women through interaction. So, like I gave you the challenges that the character faces. So, for example, people get to me and say, I want you to do a skit on domestic violence. In me trying to understand domestic violence, because I have to play the Aunty Felicia character, I'm able to understand the struggles and inner workings of victims of domestic violence. In trying to deal with autism, I'm able to understand how women navigate the path, the struggles they face with their children and all that. In trying to even just prepare for Women's Day, I'm able to understand what they go through in terms of trying to get material. Sometimes don't have money, and you have the Women's Day material at 15,000 francs, which is modern day theft, by the way. And yes, because women are the most impoverished in our community, and to do that, to ask women to buy fabric for 15,000 francs is theft. So it's understanding these things. I understand now the difficulties women go through. I try to understand a little bit more these things because I have to fit into these scenarios and understand these scenarios. So it's I think it has taught me more. I'm much more empathetic. And what I try to do is not people think that Aunty Felicia represents women. She doesn't represent women. She's not even a perfect example of women, because which woman is a perfect example of women? None. Women just leave, and it's just like saying this is a man and say Richard is a sum total of men. No, he's not. He's a man who steals. That's the character. Maybe in playing that character, he's able to understand the psyche of a thieving man, like that, and how society will interact with the thieving man. In the various scenarios that I've had to play that character, I'm able to understand a little bit more. And every day is a learning journey for me.
Talk to me about some of the challenges you've encountered since starting to play Aunty Felicia. I know we could write a book on this.
Yeah, if you're going to ask that question, you ask that question directly. You break it down and ask it directly. Don't shy away from asking the question. Every time they ask me that question, I say, ask the question you want to ask. Then go to ask exactly the question.
There are challenges.
You just know that there are challenges. I'm sure people you can itemize the challenges in some way. Somebody had asked me that question. I was like, I said, ask me the question, and he said, "Are you gay?" And I was like, "Okay, now you're asking the question." Because people, they ask me that. Like I told you, I don't shy away from questions because they're exactly that, questions. And questions are meant to elicit discussion, conversation, and truth and perspectives too. So I think but to the broader question about challenges that I faced, it was actually, first of all, starting up as a comedian, because as you might have heard me say that comedy seemed to I'm from a family of overachievers, first of all, and comedy did not seem like the path I should take, because I've been building a career in administration. I've been bureau head for communications, documentation, and archive for Elections Cameroon. I left that and I became bureau head for communications and PR for the South Regional Assembly. So in many ways, people could see a growing trajectory towards building a career in administration. Also, that in academia, I had a PhD. And comedy for the longest time felt like something that was reserved for school dropouts, especially in Anglophone Cameroon. And it felt like a distraction to many people and not a sustainable means of sustainable profession by any means. And in many ways, that perception was true. You could see it. And so when I started, I was thinking of it. I could not really delve into it because I did not know whether I'll be revolutionizing the perceptions around it or be fitting into the stereotype, where it felt like midlife crisis. This one had just gone off, and so my education, my family, instantly became a career. Became a barrier. My work became a barrier to trying to do comedy too. Then I went to Sase College. There is something in sociology called SES, socioeconomic status. It's also in economics, where certain places confer certain statuses on you, and so with the kind of school like that, my classmates are working in the World Bank, African Bank of Reconstruction and Development, AU, organizations and institutions in multinationals and in millions. And in many ways, I could hold my own as bureau head for communication in Elecam, but as a comedian, no, it did not make sense. It would not make sense. And because I'd also been a straight A student, I graduated best student from the University of Boya. It would not make sense that comedy would be what I would go to, So I'll be a typical example of the kind of student where people say this is one of the people who is likely to succeed, and I just go off. So there were all of these factors that were holding me back. Some self-imposed, and so I just did not know how to go about it because of these factors. Then when I started, it became even complex because my family was not behind it. Again, they thought it was midlife crisis, or maybe I don't involve us or family, they don't confuse my head. It just did not make sense to them. They knew I was funny, but why not even do it as stand-up? And why not do it as part-time, as some kind of recreational thing? Why are you doing it like this is something that I want to do as a career? How dare you? And so I also realized that I had to make them believe. It's very important that you make the sale. And you cannot make them believe by just doing the comedy. They had to see the vision and see how you were moving towards that vision and achieving that vision. And so when I began doing it and they see me partner with the US Embassy to run their digital literacy campaign, with the Canadian Embassy to run albinism awareness, with the Norwegian Refugee Council for hygiene and sanitation, and the list goes on, and corporations like MTN, and these people began coming. And it was different, and I was signing multi-million francs deals as a comedian, and these were not things which I could make while working as bureau head. And I'd not lost my value system, and I was getting more and more popular, and for the right reasons. I wasn't catching any fights with anybody. I've not been involved in any quarrels with anybody. I think that fundamentally I mind my business and keep my dignity and my integrity intact. And so I felt like in many ways I was revolutionizing the way people looked at comedians. And I felt that my education made people to know that I had options, and I chose comedy. I chose comedy. That's the beautiful thing, Arrey, about all of this, is that when I think about it, I know that I have options. There is no doubt. I have so many options. I could be whatever I want to be. There's no arguing that. I do MCing, but even in the professional world, I have the opportunities, and I'm qualified, not just education, but in terms of experience, to be in places and I've had people. I always have those calls, but it's a relief to see the World Food Program invites Aunty Felicia as a partner institution for their drive for school feeding. It's beautiful to see how the UNHCR would partner with Aunty Felicia to raise awareness on refugee crises and all of that. You come as an institution. Is it not a beautiful thing that comedy could open up this world of opportunities? I attended the Toronto International Film Festival as a comedian and actor. I've traveled to more than 9 countries because I'm a comedian, not because I'm an academic. I've had opportunities as an academic, but the traveling opportunities, the kind of big opportunities I've had as a comedian. And my academic background has been a booster, has been a thing that gives me credibility, where brands think I can represent them, where when I partner with, say, I am Cameroon for campaign on environmental cleanliness, I don't just partner and say, they just say do a skit. No, I am able to come down and actually be part of the conceptualization of it, because I have something to contribute to the entire concept. I'm not just a channel of communication for institutions, organizations. I have to make my family and friends to believe in the vision, to see the vision. And the truth is, when family comes on board, they come on board. When your friends come on board, they get on board. And it's nice to see the kind of respect that they now have for this kind of artistry. I cannot tell you the type of platforms I've been on, and I'm constantly on as a comedian. And I'm so proud to see how I can be on the platform and I don't even have to say I'm a doctor. I just say I'm a comedian. And it's nice to see the shock, the absolute utter shock on their faces when you start talking and they see how layered and loaded you are. It gives a lot of respect to the profession, and so yeah, I like it.
Yeah. I think it adds to the fact that which is the same thing I said at the beginning. You're not just doing comedy, but when people would think like, oh, you go all the book Jokan career so Emma for comedy, but it's like the book is
but then that's an insult to comedy. It's like comedy is meant for stupid people. That was the overriding perception that we had about it, But then, trust me, if you interact with Carol, Kupis, and Richard, it's not just the education that I'm talking about, it's the level of intelligence that they have, so it's nice to see the narrative change. And it's nice to see that we're able to be risk bearers and flag bearers to change that narrative. Because we're betting on ourselves, and it's not always easy when you don't have soft landing. I have soft landing because I knew the comedy field. I'll just worry back to academia.
15 minutes.
Perhaps even it was just, I was just like one carriage away.
If you just enjoyed this episode, the chances are that you're going to enjoy other amazing episodes that we've recorded, so you can check that out somewhere around this video. Before you go, please make sure you check our 3 boxes. First things first, please make sure to hit the subscribe or the follow button down below, because the more we grow, the bigger guests we can approach on this platform and the more value we can bring to you here on the podcast. Second, a lot of friends always reach out to me and say something like, hey Arrey, I really did enjoy this particular segment of this episode. Pick up your phone and send this to a friend and say, hey, check this out between 10 to 15 minutes. To something very important I'd love you to see. Number 3, please make sure to check out the links in the description for very helpful resources. You're going to find the link to join the Smart Club, which is my private mentorship club for friends who want to learn and master a high-income digital marketing skill. Whether your goal is to build your personal brand, become a freelancer, or get a job in digital marketing, the Smart Club is going to be the right place for you. So before you go, please make sure to tick those 3 boxes. Like I always say, my friends, cheers to many more years of shamelessly living and crazily excelling in passion and purpose, and I'll speak to you in the next episode.